If I may, I'd like to start with something a bit different. I'd like to start with a performance come reading type of thing. If you don't mind, that is. You don't mind? Oh, excellent, excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, here I am set, and here I stand. Judge my masters. Now, Harry, whence come you? My noble lord from Eastcheap. The complaints I hear of thee are grievous. 'Sblood, my lord, they are false. I'll tickle you for a young prince in faith. Swearest thou, ungracious boy, henceforth ne'er look on me? Thou art violently carried away from grace. There is a devil haunts thee in the likeness of an old fat man. A ton of a man is thy companion. Why dost thou converse with that trunk of humours, that bolting hutch of beastliness, that swollen parcel of dropsies, that huge bombard of sack, that stuffed cloak bag of guts, that roasted Manningtree ox with the pudding in his belly, that reverend vice, that grey iniquity, that father ruffian, that vanity in years? Wherein is he good but to taste sack and drink it? Wherein neat and cleanly but to carve a capon and eat it? Wherein cunning but in craft? Wherein crafty but in villainy? Wherein villainous but in all things? Wherein worthy but in nothing? I would your grace take me with you. Whom means your grace? That villainous, abominable misleader of youth, Falstaff. That old, white-bearded Satan. My lord, the man I know. I know thou dost. But to say I know more harm in him than in myself were to say more than I know. That he is old, the more the pity. His white hairs do witness it. But that he is saving your reverence an old Satan, that I utterly deny. If sack and sugar be a fault, God help the wicked. If to be old and merry be a sin, then many an old host I know is to be damned. If to be fat be to be hated, then Pharaoh's lean kine are to be loved. No, my good lord, banish Pato, banish Bardolph, banish Poins. But for sweet Jack Falstaff, kind Jack Falstaff, true Jack Falstaff, valiant Jack Falstaff, and therefore more valiant being as he is, old Jack Falstaff. Banish not him thy Harry's company. Banish not him thy Harry's company. Banish plump Jack and banish all the world. I do. I will. That was from Henry IV Part 1. It was a little bit of Act 2 Scene 4, where Prince Hal, the future Henry V, and Falstaff, the white-bearded old Satan, they're acting out a little scene. They're practising for when Hal, the following morning, faces his father on charges of youthful iniquity. It's probably one of my favourite scenes in all of the history plays. It's up there with We Few. We happy few. We band of brothers. For he that sheds his blood with me this day and comes home safe shall be my brother, be he ne'er so vile. This day shall gentle his condition. And those in England now abed shall think themselves accursed that they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap on this St. Crispin's Day. Sorry, I got a bit carried away there, didn't I? Probably didn't even get it right. Probably missed a few lines here and there. Plus, you also need the whole speech from, what say you, Westmoreland? You think we've not got enough men here? Huh? Huh? Well, look at us. We're only a few, but we can fuck those Frenchies up the arse. Give 'em 2 fingers, that's a myth, isn't it? Henry IV Part 1 isn't the best of the history plays. That goes to Henry V, followed by Richard II, in my opinion. But I think it's a good little scene. Now, my introduction to Shakespeare was at school, like it was for everybody, probably. Now, the thing about teaching Shakespeare in schools is that it can be done really, really, really badly, especially if the teacher has no enthusiasm for what they're teaching. If they don't really care, if they don't understand Shakespeare properly themselves, if they don't pass on their enthusiasm to the students, then you can come away thinking that Shakespeare is all really dull, and people speaking strange foreign languages that don't even make any sense. Why, Sir John, what do you think, Sir John? Do you think I keep thieves in my house? I have searched, I have inquired, so has my husband, man by man, boy by boy, servant by servant. The tithe of a hair was never lost in my house before. Now, if you're teaching Shakespeare like that, of course your students are going to come away thinking it's a load of rubbish. Now, fortunately for me, when I was first taught Shakespeare in Year 9, the teacher had a lot of enthusiasm for the play she was teaching, Twelfth Night, and she did pass that enthusiasm along. I came back to Twelfth Night years and years and years later. I was writing a sort of send-up of it, and I went back to the play for the first time since being taught it, and I could remember all of it. I could remember the yellow stockings, I could remember Go Shake Your Ears, If Music Be the Food of Love, Play On, Give Me Excess of It. I could remember all of it, and that's because it was taught with enthusiasm, with passion. Now, I did enjoy studying Twelfth Night in Year 9, but the reason I didn't actually get into Shakespeare in school was because of the second time I was taught Shakespeare, in Year 10 I think it was. It might have even been Year 11. Because then the teacher, she didn't have much enthusiasm. She didn't care. She was just teaching it because she had to teach it. Unfortunately, that play was also Romeo and Juliet, which, it might be the most famous play, it might be the most quotable, but it's not the best. In fact, the only way I think you can make Romeo and Juliet fun is if you replace Juliet with, I don't know, Winston Churchill. For soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and... No, hang on, Juliet's smoking a massive cigar. Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou? Romeo, art thou fighting on the beaches? Deny thy father, refuse thy name, never surrender, and I'll no longer be a Capulet. There's also that, and the scene where Benvolio says to Romeo, "Oh, I bet you wish you could do her up the arse." But they don't generally include that in schools. They usually miss it out entirely, which I have a feeling was done this time. It was still taught without enthusiasm. It still wasn't taught very well, and, you know, it didn't really endear me to Shakespeare. It was only when I got to university and I happened to stumble into a theatre society, long story, I'll explain that sometime, that I got a bit of a Shakespeare bug. They put on a performance of Much Ado About Nothing, and it was a really, really, really good performance, and it sort of kindled a burgeoning love of Shakespeare. It made me appreciate the man all the more, because it was well done, because it was well performed. And then came my dissertation, and I was doing Welsh culture and the perception of the Welsh after they were conquered in 1282. And as a part of that, I was going to use this, Henry IV Part 1. And I spent most of the morning wandering around Bangor looking for a copy of Henry IV Part 1. In the last charity shop I went in, I found this. I couldn't find it anywhere, but in the last charity shop, I found this. It cost me 69p. I bought it, I was going to use it, and guess what happened? They told me to change my dissertation. But looking through this play, reading through it, reading Act 2, Scene 4, then later seeing it on the television, later watching the film version of Henry V, the Kenneth Branagh version, you know, I got a love of Shakespeare from that, from reading this play. I've got 5 or 6 more Shakespeare plays hanging around here. I've got Twelfth Night, The Tempest, Hamlet, Henry IV Part 1, and, you know, Shakespeare isn't that hard to understand if it's performed well, if it's interpreted well. Shakespeare is multi-interpretational, but you interpret it well, you perform it well, and Shakespeare can be good. If you teach Shakespeare well and with enthusiasm, you can pass on a love of it to your students. Unfortunately, because I had one teacher who didn't, it didn't pass on to me, and I didn't get the bug until later. But Shakespeare's worth it. Shakespeare is one of the best writers in the English language. Shakespeare is worth loving. Of all of his plays, I like the history plays the best. I like Henry IV Part 1, I like Henry V. Henry V might be my favourite Shakespeare play. Do you want to hear a bit of the Twelfth Night parody? Yeah, cool. Ah, good evening, my friends. Welcome to the Illyrian Gentlemen's Club. Feste Hodge is my name, and all else you need to know is that I am the chief barman of this here fine establishment. I serve the drinks for the benefit of the desperate and the downtrodden, on behalf of Mr. Orsino Braithwaite, the owner of the establishment. I believe this is Mr. Braithwaite approaching now. If music be the food of love, then please, I want some more.